The Injured Senior Podcast is here to help. Like it or not, the senior and elderly population is vulnerable to negligence committed by medical professionals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, pharmaceutical and medical device companies, insurance companies, and everyday individuals and businesses. Your host, Steve Heisler, creator of the National Injured Senior Law Center, has been advocating for seniors' rights for over 30 years and is bringing you answers to your questions. This is the Injured Senior Podcast.
Well, hello to all in our injured senior, elderly, and aging population community. This is Steve Heisler, CEO and founder of the National Injured Senior Law Center, and you're tuned in to our latest edition of the Injured Senior Podcast. I am your host, and it is awfully great to be with you today. So the Injured Senior Podcast is a show dedicated to discussing legal and medical issues of vital importance to seniors, elderly, and the aging population, as well as their children, loved ones, and caregivers. Folks, we are sponsored by the National Injured Senior Law Center, the legal advocates for older individuals who've been injured by the negligence of others. To learn more, go to injuredseniorhotline.com. So, friends, I had the pleasure of interviewing Billie Mintz on episode 21 of this podcast back a couple months ago. I think it was a hot summer day when we had that interview. It was a fantastic interview, and we have Billie back again today to talk about abusive probate guardianships. For those of you who have not yet listened to the episode, Billie is a documentary filmmaker who exposed the filthiness of the professional guardianship industry in his film, The Guardians. Now, the film won awards and focused on how professional guardians, who, by the way, are not related to the seniors and elderly individuals they are attempting to get guardianship over, actually do so relatively easily and with no pushback from the probate courts. Billie's documentary spotlighted the Las Vegas professional guardianship community, and his efforts were instrumental in the criminal conviction of one particularly corrupt guardian, April Parks. Billie, if somebody wants to reach out to you, you have to listen to this, and they've got their own type of abusive guardianship situation. How do they do so, Bill?
I would say before anybody reaches out to me, I'll definitely give my contact, but I think the first thing you need to do is get your ducks in a row. Put a timeline together, like really organize yourself if you're going to involve other people. Organize yourself properly, put your timeline together, get all your evidence together in one place, do it on Google Drive. It's free. If you can do that, if you don't, you can ask me. But the first thing always when anybody contacts me is your evidence together? Because there's really not much I can do besides be a therapist, which I'm not. But yeah, if you want to reach out, it's simple to find me at my website, billiemintz.com. That's with an I-E, B-I-L-L-I-E, and Mintz as in M as in Mary, I-N as in Norman, T-Z as in zebra.com, and you can put info at the beginning of it, info@billiemintz.com. And if you live in a state that allows you to record calls, check to see if you're a one-party state or a two-party state. If you're in a one-party state, which is most of the United States except for 9 states, then start recording all of your calls. Get Call Pro and record your calls. I know that might be difficult, but I'm here. I can help with all that. Just you gotta fight back with these people.
No, that's great advice. And on the former, the first thing you said, as far as creating a timeline, I'm an attorney, so I tell anyone who calls me, because I get calls too, as a result of this podcast regarding abusive guardianships. The first thing I tell them is make me a timeline. So usually it's very involved, and so help us to understand it quicker, so we can get moving on it faster, right?
Yeah, and something else that's interesting that I've been thinking about. There are so many advocates out there. There are the Sam Sugars of the world, the Julie Belshis, the Carrie Kasems, and there are so many people who are fighting this. Yet, I'm pretty sure none of them do this for a living. I'm pretty sure all of them do this voluntarily, as myself. Yet all of the money that people spend go to, usually corrupt lawyers who are in on the system. And so there's this whole thing I've been thinking about as far as, besides like lawyers like yourself, but, most of the lawyers, if you are caught up in guardianship in a county, the chances are if guardianship is going on in your county, chances are you don't know if the lawyer you're hiring is in on it or not. And there really before you start spending your money on a lawyer, you really need to figure out, and I don't know how, and that's something, Steve, you and I could probably talk on a future episode, but is just really creating some sort of system, because as soon as like the Carrie Kasems and the Julie Belshis and the Sam Sugars start getting paid in this world, and I'm not advocating on behalf of like that you need to pay them, but there needs to be an equal balance, and there needs to be people like these people, advocates that actually it can be sustainable so that they can fight this thing. And I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I
think you're spot on, Bill. I think you're spot on. I know, Doc.
We got to fight this with money.
Yeah. Well, Sam Sugar is a doctor, so he created the AAPG. Because he himself was involved in an abusive guardianship situation involving a relative of his. So, yeah, the people that you mentioned, they're not doing it to make money. They're doing it to get justice for really the senior and elderly population of the United States, because anybody can get caught up in this, and before you know it, they're under guardianship. So
save your money before you hire a lawyer. Reach out to the Sam Sugars of the world, and to other advocates who have been actively fighting this. When you speak to an advocate or you speak to a lawyer, ask them for references of other people they've helped. Start calling up those people. There are many groups online that you can find of other people who are in the same situation, and start speaking to them before you start spending money, because your money could probably go to other things in a system that you're probably not going to be able to get your loved one out of anyway. So that's the reality of it. But get yourself educated before you start trusting lawyers. Sorry, Steve, I don't mean to
no,
paint
that's awesome. Understood.
Your industry as that. But most crimes that I deal with are led by lawyers, and you're a rare bird. I'm not saying all lawyers, but every adversary that I am up against in the work that I do is usually people in the legal community, and it's unfortunate. And I want to say that every single friend that I have in the world that helps me in these battles that I get myself involved are lawyers. So I don't want to leave that out, but they're rare.
Yeah. Well, hey, right in the guardianship industry and the lawyers that are involved with that, shame on them. The ones that are just perpetrating or perpetuating the situation and all the inhumane things that are happening. So I agree, and I appreciate it, Bill. How can people find you on social media?
BillieMintz.com. BillieMintz.com, and there's a contact link there.
Great. Thanks for coming on again, Bill. I owe you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, great. And of course, senior, elderly, and aging population thanks you. We will be watching. Obviously, I talk to you pretty regularly, but I'm sure everyone will be watching to see what your next documentary is going to be. And I'm sure no matter what it's going to be about, it's going to be fantastic. You're a great filmmaker.
Thanks, man.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Talk soon. Thanks for what you're doing.
You got it. Injured senior and aging population community, thanks for listening to today's episode. I want to again thank Billie Mintz for appearing on the show today. If you love the Injured Senior podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you want to share your story about an abusive guardianship or about anything, or you have any suggestions or comments about our show, feel free to email me at steve@injuredseniorhotline.com or just go to our website, injuredseniorpodcast.com, and leave us a message. I answer all emails and I respond to all messages. You can also go to our website, a lot of really good articles, blogs, and all the podcast episodes. Go to www.injuredseniorpodcast.com. So until next time, my good friends, thanks a lot for listening to the show. I look forward to speaking with you next week with a whole new episode. Stay well, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Injured Senior Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate, subscribe, review, and share on Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us at injuredseniorpodcast.com and sign up for our newsletter. To find out more or to get help at any time, visit injuredseniorpodcast.com or call 855-622-6530. That's 855-622-6530.